was Cameroonian in Nigerian military uniform, recovers tons of illicit drugs in nationwide raids of drug joints. NDLA busts fentanyl drug syndicates, arrest members in Anambra, vows to hunt down others involved in the killer trade. U.S. assures NDLA of support in fight against illicit drugs, comments Mara's performance. As a National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA intensifies operations at the drug joints and routes nationwide ahead of May 2029 inauguration of new administrations across the country. Its operatives have intercepted a consignment of 32 pieces of improvised explosive devices, IEDs, being taken to bandit camp in Niger State. Chairman Chief Executive Officer of the agency, Brigadier General Mohammed Mara, retired, has since ordered the immediate transfer of a suspect, Musa Muhammadu, caught with the explosives on Monday, 22nd May, along Wawa Road, changing Niger State to the military. Barely a week after NDLA operatives at the Shako export shade of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, intercepted a consignment of 30.10 kg methamphetamine going to London, UK. Another shipment containing 379 grams of the same illicit substance concealed in first bottom of 6 black soap containers, packed in a carton containing local hand fans, heading to Cyprus in Europe, has been recovered at a courier company in Lagos by officers of the Directorate of Operations and General Investigation, DOGI, in the agency. In Adamawa State, operatives on stop and search patrol along Michika Bazaar Road on Friday, 26 May, arrested a Cameroonian, Ndawa Ima Ngalo, with a pair of Nigerian Army camouflage uniform bearing Sunday U and 2 ATM cards belonging to Turaki Mohammed and Ekene Izuegunam. 2 ladies, Bilikisu Yusuf, 33, and Kauna Castina, 25, were on Monday, 22nd May, arrested in Ningi Town, Bauchi State, with 11,080 pills of tramadol, while Uche Shedra, 22, was arrested with 20,480 pills of the same pharmaceutical opioid on Wednesday, 24th May, along Okene Lokoja Highway, Kogi State, on his way from Onitsha, Anambra State to Mina, Niger State. In the same vein, 2 suspects, Surajo Adamu and Muhammad Ali, were arrested on Friday, 26th May, with 379,200 tablets of diazepam in Alimosho area of Lagos, while the MMIA command of the agency took custody of 22 cartons of tramadol, 225 mg weighing 1,144.30 kg, and 12 cartons of tramadol, 120 mg, with a total weight of 320 kg, all containing 2,317,400 pills transferred to the agency by the Airport Command of the Nigerian Customs Service on Thursday, 25th May. In Delta State, NDLA operatives supported by men drawn from the Nigerian Army, NSCDC, and the police on Wednesday, 24th May, raided the notorious Abbey Town, Ndokwa West local government area, where 3 suspects, Eunice NF52, Animan Informa 26, and Chokes Wabama Dennis 35, were arrested with a total of 343.9 kg cannabis recovered from them. A similar mop-up operation in Bayelsa has led to the arrest of a wanted suspect, Ozuemena Egbochu, 38, at the Swali Market in Yenigwa on Monday, 22nd May, following the earlier arrest of his sales boy, Morgan Eredewe, with 11,748 pills of tramadol and diazepam. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLE, has successfully apprehended members of a dangerous syndicate involved in the illegal importation and trafficking of the lethal synthetic opioid, fentanyl, the drug which is 100 times stronger than tramadol. possesses a significant threat to the youth population targeted by the cartels. The arrest of two members of the syndicates, Odo Collins Ogwejiofor and Oliver Chigozie Uzoma, took place at the Ugbogu market in Onitsha, Anambra State. The operation was conducted after months of undercover monitoring and in collaboration with local and international partners. The NDLA Chairman Chief Executive Officer, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Mara, was assured that the agency will leave no stone untouched to apprehend all members of this criminal gang to safeguard public health, especially the youth population. The seized substances include various forms of fentanyl, as well as other illicitly manufactured pharmaceutical opioids. Mara praised officers and men involved in the operation and directed them to intensify efforts in cracking down on other cartel members who may be operating covertly. He also urged parents and stakeholders to remain vigilant, alert their young ones about the dangers of experimenting with this illicit substance, while thanking international partners for their support for the fight against drug abuse in Nigeria. The United States government has pledged increased support and collaboration with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLA, in Nigeria's fight against substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking. Dr. Mark Hoff of the U.S. State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs conveyed this assurance during a custom visit to NDLA Chairman, CEO Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Mara, retired in Abuja. The U.S. government has recently granted a support grant to the NDLA, covering areas such as forensic and chemical analysis, intelligence-led investigations, legal resources, and an e-library for prosecution. Hoff commended the NDLA's impressive performance, particularly in addressing the threat of lethal drugs like fentanyl, and expressed satisfaction with the recent seizure of over 2.1 tons of cocaine in Lagos. Mara expressed gratitude for the support and highlighted the significance of the collaboration between the NDLA and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration in combating drug trafficking. During the visit, the U.S. officials and the NDLA leadership discussed further areas of assistance and collaboration. The support from the U.S. government is expected to significantly enhance the investigative and prosecutorial capabilities of the NDLA, reinforcing the agency's role as a training center for anti-narcotic agencies across Africa. Mara expressed the need for continued collaboration, especially in combating the trafficking of drugs like fentanyl. That's all on the arrest and seizures, and now to wider engagement across the country. The Edo State Command of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, takes the war against drug abuse WADA sensitization lecture to success group of schools in Igara, Akoko, Edo local government area. The lecture, held on Monday, May 22, 2023, was to educate students about the dangers of drug abuse and equip them with knowledge to make informed decisions. In a similar effort, the Benue State Command of the NDLA collaborated with the NYSC WADA Club to deliver a WADA sensitization lecture to students and staff of Bristol Secondary School in Boko on Monday, May 2022. May 22nd, 2023. The focus of the lecture was raising awareness about the consequences of drug abuse and its impact on individuals' physical and mental health. The Delta State Command of the NDLA also conducted a wider sensitization lecture at St. Patrick College in Asaba on Monday, May 22nd, 2023. The purpose of the lecture was to educate students about the dangers of drug abuse and equip them with the necessary knowledge to resist peer pressure and make informed decisions. Similarly, the Ekiti State Command of the agency took the WADA sensitization lecture to Government Science College in Iyin Ekiti on Monday, May 22nd, 2023, by raising awareness about the consequences of drug abuse among the students and equipping them with the necessary tools to make informed choices. The NDLA aims to empower the younger generations. Equally, the Kebbi State Command of the NDLA delivered a water sensitization lecture at Government Girls Science College in River, Danko, Wasagu local government area on Monday, May 22nd, 2023. The main objective of the lecture was to educate students about the dangers of drug abuse and promote a drug-free environment in the school. The Kano State Command of the agency conducted a water sensitization lecture at Girls Arabic Secondary School in Kafin, Mayaki, Kiru local government area on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. The primary aim of the lecture was to raise awareness about the dangers of drug abuse and equip the student with knowledge to resist peer pressure. NDLA representatives engaged the students in interactive discussions, highlighting the adverse effects of substance abuse on personal health and encouraging them to lead drug-free lives. Similarly, the Ondo State Command of the NDLA took the water sensitization lecture to Rema Citadel Academy in Idoani. The lecture was to raise awareness among students about the consequences of drug abuse and equip them with the necessary tools to make informed decisions. During the interactive sessions, NDLA representatives emphasized the importance of rejecting drugs and making healthier choices for a brighter future. The Enugu State Command also took a significant step in the fight against drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking by destroying 23,721 kg of seized illicit drugs on Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. This act demonstrated the command's commitment to eliminating the availability of drugs in the society and safeguarding public health. That's all on this segment. The conversation continues shortly. My name is Charity. Over to our host, Mr. Femi Babafemi.
Thank you very much, Charity. Welcome back from the news highlight segment. Let's quickly remind us about some of the rules guiding our process of engagement on this program. As usual, when I invite our guests to make a presentation, please let all remain. Of course, I won't be approving those that have made requests until we're close to the end of our presentation. And when you are approved, please stay muted until it's time to take contributions to interrogate our presentation. I'll probably take your questions based on the subject matter, subject of discussion today. I know definitely that those who are the job applicants on the space, they probably they have their own time in the last 30 minutes of the program. That's precisely at 4:30. So please stay calm and let's enjoy the conversation on today's subject of discussion first before we switch to updating you the segment where we update you about the coming screening and interview exercise that will commence from Monday the 5th of June across the country. I want to tell you that this is all part of our commitment to engage with all our stakeholders in all we do. Now we've gotten to the high point of this conversation, and so it's time to have our guest, but then let me formally introduce her. That is Aubrey Adams. Aubrey is a director of Every Brain Matters based in the US. Aubrey not only has a BS in exercise science and health promotion, but is most proud of her experience as a mom of 2 sons and two dogs, and as a host mom for youth in recovery. After working as a physical therapy assistant for over 2 decades, this former Pueblo, Colorado mom found herself at ground zero of the marijuana expansion movement. She has shared her devastating Colorado experiences and knowledge of marijuana for drug prevention coalitions, alliances, and health departments across the U.S. As director at Every Brain Matters, a primary project of the Parent Action Network, she's grown a community of support and advocacy based on science. She equally intends for the EBM, that's Every Brain Matters, logo to be recognized as a live free from marijuana and instead valuing optimal brain and environmental health. Aubrey co-developed Manon, a 12-step program that gives support and hope to families affected by another person's marijuana use. She also hosts a podcast called It's Just Pot, What's the Problem?, where she openly discusses the public health crisis caused by the marijuana expansion. Aubrey was honored to be a recipient of Drug Free America Foundation's 2021 Movie Award, and her opioid was published in USA Today, and I think I've also seen some of her publications in our own The Gazette, that's an online newspaper that we're familiar with here. Now, in 2018, Aubrey decided to leave Colorado to the harms legal marijuana caused her family. Due to the harms legal marijuana caused her family and community, she joined her son in a dynamic, enthusiastic recovery community in Houston, Texas, where she's volunteered as the parent coordinator. She embraces opportunity to host teens and young adults recovering in her home. Aubrey also sponsors, supports, and encourages other parents to work their own recovery programs. Are currently leads an online recovery group through the Every Brain Matters community. It is my very great honor and privilege to, even though I've not, this is my first direct contact with Aubrey, but I think I've read quite a lot about her. I'm so glad to welcome and urge Aubrey to please unmute herself. Let's listen to her make her presentation for the next 30 minutes thereabout, and thereafter we're going to be having an interrogation of her presentation, discussion, as well as questions based on her presentation, and thereafter we'll switch to another segment of the program. Thank you very much for taking your time this early hour of your time out there in the US to join us to be part of this conversation. Aubrey, please go ahead and let's enjoy your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome. I'm so honored to be asked to speak to this wonderful coalition of well-minded individuals and organizations that want to inform and empower youth and adults and communities to make informed decisions. So thank you for this opportunity for me to share my story. It's an honor to be here, and good morning from the U.S. and good afternoon to Nigeria. My name is Aubrey Adams, and marijuana changed my home. In the introduction, I am from Pueblo, Colorado, which is ground zero for what I call the marijuana expansion and drug culture expansion movement. I'm a former host mom for Youth in Recovery, and I'd like to inform your community that due to the lack of education combined with well-funded ad campaigns, the public is being deceived in regards to the effects of marijuana. The Drug Policy Alliance wants all drugs legalized worldwide, and so Nigeria needs to ask, where do you guys draw the line? So in this presentation, I will share the reality of the marijuana expansion. In this presentation, I will explain what happened to my family as a resident of Pueblo, Colorado. I will introduce my community of Every Brain Matters. I will share some about the products that are legal in our states. I will share the results of this legalization policy and how Colorado has started to try to push back against this, what I call a predatory addiction for profit industry, and then give some solutions and some resources. So like I said, I'm from Pueblo, Colorado. We were known as the home of heroes because we had 4 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients, and we were known for our Pueblo chili, which is so yummy. We have a huge celebration every September where we roast these Pueblo chilies in front of our grocery stores and have a huge festival. But unfortunately, now that we've legalized marijuana, the town reeks of what I call like a dead skunk smell. We are known as the Napa Valley of marijuana, but it's really not that nice. We're homeless and crime, and the smell of dead skunk is everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. In most social gatherings, like movie theaters, grocery stores. And the worst part is at my son's 8th grade celebration inside the school. It just reeked of marijuana. We didn't know if someone was using marijuana prior to coming into the school and caused the smell, or if they had some kind of products on them. It was a very uncomfortable situation to be around children celebrating their academics while we are smelling this very potent drug. We have homeless people that have migrated to Pueblo. In this presentation, I show a picture of a man holding a cardboard sign saying, spare any weed in front of our Walmart. One new story illustrates what happens when marijuana is legalized. Before legalization, we had a normal life. We were a normal family. We were involved with our church and our kids' school. I was the kind of mom that would play with my kids. I have a picture of me giving what we call Zerberts to my oldest son when he was a baby, and another picture of my son as a Boy Scout, and he had just done a challenge of achieving his bicycle badge, a cycle badge, where he had to ride 50 miles in one day. And there's a picture of me and him after he rode those 50 miles, and he's got his arm around me. He's leaning on me because he feels like his legs are going to give out because he biked so far. So that evening, I spent the evening icing his legs because he was so sore. And, we took family trips. We enjoyed a trip to Florida one time and went to Universal Studios. And not only was my oldest son harmed by marijuana, but so was my husband. So these products are now so potent that even there's no proof that they're safe for adults to use. So soon after legalization, my son's behavior started to change. He started to self-harm, and hopefully I won't cry. I always cry when I tell his story because even though it happened many years ago, it's still very tender to my heart. By 2015, in February, my oldest son was a freshman in high school, and he became irrational. He was paranoid. He was inconsolable. I couldn't get him to stop crying one night. He was saying things and repeating things that didn't make any sense to me over and over. And what I now know is I was witnessing him in cannabis-induced psychosis. He was having delusions. And he was violent towards his brother. That one night, his younger brother, my younger son, ran barefoot through the snow to get away from him. That next day, my son was hospitalized because he attempted suicide. When he was discharged from the ER, he went to a psychiatric unit. But they kept him for 5 days, and when he was discharged from there, he was still suicidal. I took him back to the ER for more help, and I was told it's just marijuana, and we were sent home. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't leave him alone because I was afraid he was going to kill himself. I knew he wasn't in his right mind. I did not understand what was going on. I did not understand what psychosis was at the time. And my son did not improve. And within a few more days, I took him back to the hospital and begged them for help. And they told me that there was no available beds for him in our town of Pueblo, but they did hospitalize him in Colorado Springs. And when he got out of that hospital, I asked him what was going on, and he said, "Mom, I was dabbing." And I said, what is a dab? I had no clue what a dab was. And he said, "Mom, it's strong marijuana. It's like crack weed," is what he called it. Well, I learned that dabs are high concentrations of THC, the addictive chemical from the cannabis plant, that are mass-produced and marketed as medicine. And now they put these THC concentrates in vape pens. I volunteered my family for crisis intervention because I couldn't find help for marijuana abuse. So I volunteered our family with the Department of Social Services for help. I realized that at that time my son had developed what I call the pediatric disease of addiction. And by the next year, not only was he using marijuana, but he was using meth and heroin for a few weeks. And not only did marijuana legalization change my son, but it changed my community too. It brought crime into our neighborhoods. We lived right next door to, or just a block away from, an elementary school that was from kindergarten to 8th grade. And let me just describe a little bit of the crime that came to our neighborhood after legalization. The block right next to us was blocked off by a SWAT team of police because there was a psychotic woman with a gun. I was chased down the alley behind my house by a young man waving his arms in the air, saying he just got out of the hospital and he needed me to give him a ride out of town because he said Pueblo was going to blow up. Obviously, he was delusional. 2 illegal marijuana grow houses came into within a 1-block radius of my home. One had a home invasion on a Tuesday afternoon. And one of my friends lived right next door to one of these marijuana grow houses. They had 3 small children at the time, and they could not allow their kids to play outside because of the drug trafficking happening right next door and the marijuana smoke coming into their backyard. One day, the mom of that family came home. She was a high school teacher in town. And inside the home, it just reeked of marijuana. She became very scared because she thought, oh my goodness, somebody broke into our home and is in the basement smoking marijuana. But it turned out that the swamp coolers we use in Colorado to cool our homes had drawn in the marijuana smoke from the neighbors. Another incident that happened is a kid was shot in the head on the corner, and the kid or the teenager that did the shooting was supplying my son with marijuana. And then right in front of our house, we had a gang shooting and a car crash. Never had anything like this happened in my neighborhood prior to marijuana legalization. And worse, just 3 blocks north of my home and only feet away from my parents' garage, a gentleman named Brad Fowler was growing and selling marijuana from his home, and he was killed over a marijuana transaction. And he lay deceased on the streets at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning. Amendment 64, which legalized marijuana in Colorado, turned every home into a potential marijuana grow house. And when you legalize marijuana, you allow an addiction-for-profit industry to market to kids. On the south side of Pueblo, right next door to what we call an alternative high school, where kids are already struggling with academics and emotional issues, is a marijuana head shop where kids can see shiny, colorful bongs and pipes and clothing and advertisements glorifying and normalizing marijuana. They even have a person outside waving a sign saying, "Ask me about a free pipe at Mary Jane's." And Pueblo, Colorado has pot scholarships for every high school senior. It's a brilliant marketing plan by the predatory marijuana industry to groom future users. It's a way to advertise and normalize marijuana to kids under the radar. The Pueblo Hispanic Educational Fund displays these marijuana scholarships on the front page of their website, and the city lines up the kids in the front steps of the courthouse for photos. Can you imagine watching this display while your son is psychotic, addicted, and suicidal from marijuana use? Now, as a result, Pueblo kids are now using more marijuana at a 27% rate. And over 50% of those kids that are using the more potent marijuana products like edibles and vapes. And people don't know this, but my friend and I would take people from other states and other countries on marijuana tours of Pueblo, and we would show them the true impacts. We would drive them by homes destroyed by marijuana grows. They would see underground bunkers to grow marijuana. We would drive them by marijuana criminal organizations linked to cartels from all over the world. And one of those organizations moved in right next door to my friend, who taught kids how to ride and train horses for a living. But soon her clients became too scared to come to her property, so she has moved out of Pueblo, just like me. In these pictures, I've taken pictures of while I'm standing on her property, where you can see a fence where they grow the marijuana, and then a shack where they make the marijuana concentrates, the dabs that I talked about before. These operations can cause fires, explosions, they attract violent crime, and they deplete precious resources like water. So getting back to my family story, my son kept relapsing to marijuana, what he called the safer drug, and medicine at the time. Social services has discharged us, saying they couldn't help us anymore. Excuse my language, but it was hell for us. We were in crisis. My son was gone a lot to the streets. People were harboring him in their homes and allowing him to use and sell their marijuana. Excuse me, I get emotional. I could not afford the treatment options I was finding. In the meantime, my husband became depressed, suicidal, and he was having emotional outbursts. I was coddling him, thinking he was just in so much pain, watching our son destroy himself. But soon he tested positive for marijuana, and he was suspended from his job. He said the bud tenders at the marijuana shop told him that his panic attacks would go away if he smoked marijuana flower that contained 24% THC. Well, they were right. 24% THC did numb him up temporarily, but it harmed his brain too. He was hearing voices and having conversations with them. He had developed psychosis too. And as a result, my husband now requires 4 pharmaceutical medications to stabilize himself. Excuse me. And somehow a miracle happened. And we found treatment for my son in San Diego, California, a dual diagnosis program, and a place that did not minimize marijuana's effects on his brain. And I have a picture of me and my 2 sons standing on the beach in La Jolla, California. As I visited him in his treatment facility, they would allow me to take him out for only 3 hours at a time. And then after that, I found Houston, Texas, which I call ground zero for the youth recovery movement. They have alternative peer groups and host homes and recovery communities and recovery high schools. My son went there to Houston in the summer of 2016, and he lived with host families for 2 years, and he became a strong leader in the program. And for the first time, he had sober peers and a community that supported his health. My husband was eventually hospitalized, and the medical professionals advised me to go ahead and leave Colorado because of the emotional outburst he was having and for my safety. So my younger son and I moved to Houston in July of 2018. We were reunited with my older son, and we joined his recovery community too. My younger son doesn't have a drug problem or substance use disorder. He has depression and PTSD from the trauma he experienced. So working a recovery program was essential for him and for me to recover. And now my younger son has become a strong leader in this community too.
Do something must to kill a man. I can't open eyes, let them kill me. Nai mekaki mungu gaga. City fool, onyara. David Jones, David. Nai and Codin, nati bobo. City fool, onyara. Imama wanamo. She don't wanna me say you go beat us, and not the only thing when they make me high. And when he high, he don't do I'm like he go dumb. And he go say I am feeling like you run. And when he run, that's why them go they talk. And when he shell it, that belly go say, in mama wanna move. In papa wanna move. I already bought my suit. The honeymoon for before Takwa, but you know, yeah. In mama wanna move. Stop it, oh. You know, yeah. Now we did. Yeah, but left. Stop it, oh. You know, yeah. Now we did. I think I don't beg you, banana bastard. I see you every day, you take them like a custard. If I'm having you, I'm mad. Stop banana before you feel me so sad. When it starts, he go do you like a crocodile. And you go say, I am feeling like to run. And when you run, that's when them go they talk. And when it's shell it, I feel like go say, in my mama wanna move. Stop it, oh. In papa wanna move. I already bought my suit. The honeymoon for before Takwa, but you know, yeah. In mama wanna move. Stop it, oh. You know, yeah. Now we did. Yeah, but left. Felix King.
He had severe abdominal pain, and he was only testing positive for cannabis, THC, marijuana. We are now both living in Houston, but he is refusing treatment. He has gained some weight back, but his anxiety is so high that he walks up to 7 to 8 hours a day, sometimes into the night, and chain smokes cigarettes. So as you can see, this has been very challenging for my family. And this is the reason why I was inspired to form a community of Every Brain Matters. We provide support for family and advocacy based on science and lived experience because the public is being deceived and misled regarding marijuana products and their effects. And this has led to a public health crisis. So no matter what decisions are made with policies or how much the drug culture expands, we at Every Brain Matters will keep on keeping on because we wholeheartedly know that every brain matters. So in my community, we have a support committee where we have resources of articles on what to do if your child is using marijuana, how to find treatment. We have podcasts and meetings, hearing other people's experience, strength, and hope recovering from cannabis-induced psychosis and cannabis addiction. I just particularly want to talk about a young man named Zach, who I hosted in my home, who had 2 psychotic episodes caused by THC, and he shares his experience of this horrifying experience that he had and how he's recovering now. And today he mentors other youth in recovery and gives them the tools and the strength and the hope to empower themselves to take care of themselves. And his mom also shared her experience, strength, and hope with the Every Brain Matters community. She is my good friend. I've learned a lot from her, Christy, and she describes what she did to get through those moments of Zach's psychotic episodes. Tonight we are having a meeting with a lady named Pam who has started her own recovery program, so join us if you'd like. You can go to everybrainmatters.org. At the top of the website, you hit meetings and it lists all our meetings we have there. You can also join us there and learn more about the support advisory committee in the About section. And also, the other arm, part of the Every Brain Matters community is advocacy. And we have aligned with the Parent Action Network, which is a project of Smart Approach to Marijuana, to empower parent leaders and give a voice to policy decisions and the true impacts of what's happening. We raise everyone's voices by publishing testimonies, so you hear the reality and not any propaganda about the effects of marijuana. We have a mom who shared her experience of her son, Alex Novell. Alex developed cannabis use disorder or addiction to marijuana at the age of 13, and then ordered a pill through social media and died of fentanyl at 14 years old in his bedroom. We have a testimony from a lady who lived in Colorado who was a college student and working and rented an apartment while she was studying, and she had to move out of her apartment because her neighbors were big marijuana smokers and it would exacerbate her lungs and her asthma, and the apartment complex she was living in would not hold the people that were smoking the marijuana accountable. They told her there was nothing they could do. The law was on their side, and so she had to move out and find a different place to live. We have several testimonies of how parents navigated through their children's marijuana-induced psychosis and how they are surviving now. The Every Brain Matters community is about education, informed education to empower individuals and organizations to make those informed decisions that are so needed. So on the front page of Every Brain Matters, you can scroll down and you see a chart with a boy on it that says the short-term and long-term effects of THC on the body. We show how it affects the brain, the lungs, the hearts, other systems, the kidneys, the GI system, how it affects the reproductive system. And there's informational icons on that chart that pop up and lead you to those studies. So everything is science-based and facts. So it's a great resource tool that any family or school or anybody can visit and learn about these effects. You can print out this poster. I would love it, even if any school or community organization would print out the poster and hang it on the wall. And even if you don't talk about it to the students or the families, it's a way to provide passive education. So at least the kids are seeing the true impacts of marijuana instead of being bombarded by the propaganda that's so prevalent on social media that they're seeing a lot. On the front page of Every Brain Matters, we also provide pamphlets that describe the different effects of marijuana, like cannabis use disorder when somebody gets addicted to it. Now, most adults, about 10% of adults, used to become addicted to marijuana, but now that marijuana is really what I call industrialized THC, it's so because it's more potent. 30% of users are now developing cannabis use disorder. That's a large amount of people becoming addicted. Also, I have a pamphlet explaining cannabis-induced psychosis, which I explained that my husband and my son both experienced. So cannabis-induced psychosis is a break from a reality where a person experiences symptoms of paranoia, hallucinations, especially auditory hallucinations. They can have delusions or grandiosity ideas or depersonalization. Like when my husband was hearing the voices in his head, as a very powerful tool to have. And the science is not small, it's not moderate, it's very, very strong. The THC in the cannabis causes episodes of psychosis. And out of all the drugs that can cause psychosis, cannabis is the worst offender, with the highest conversion rate from those temporary psychotic symptoms like the hallucinations, paranoia, to chronic psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia or bipolar with psychosis. 47% of people who experience episodes of psychosis can convert to schizophrenia. And then a very large study just came out of Denmark that is very eye-opening. It says young men are at the highest risk of schizophrenia linked with cannabis use. And this study concluded that 30% of cases of schizophrenia among men ages 21 to 30 might not have schizophrenia if they had averted their cannabis use. So restraining from cannabis use can be life-saving, and using marijuana can change your mental health for the rest of your life. Also, we have a pamphlet of marijuana as a link to suicide. It's at a 7-fold increase. I have a chart that shows that almost 23% of Colorado teens that have died by suicide, the main drug found in their system is marijuana. And in where I'm from, in Pueblo, Colorado, where the marijuana grows and shops are more concentrated, that rate is at 35%. So please check out that pamphlet. I also have another pamphlet that explains cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, or what we call CHS. I explained before that my son had been suffering from severe abdominal pain and GI issues, and he actually lost his job over this. This condition, like I said, is CHS, or cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. And it's when the chemicals or the cannabinoids in the marijuana plant get to toxic levels in the body. And it just doesn't happen with the THC products. It can happen with the CBD products. And in some cases, people have passed away because their organs shut down or they experience seizures, like Brendan Danielson from Washington State. Brandon worked for the marijuana industry in Washington State, and he was featured in the Seattle Times recently. CHS has become very common, and many people, including medical professionals, are unaware of this life-threatening condition. And the last two pamphlets we offer is Marijuana's Link to Opioid Use Disorder, and how now in the United States, where we've legalized hemp, the hemp industry is taking CBD and converting it to different variants of THC, like Delta 8, Delta 10 THC, THCO, and they're selling these products in our gas stations and smoke shops and convenient marks. Our kids have access to these very dangerous products that are actually legalized through our federal government through the 2018 Farm Bill here. Also, the Every Brain Matters community provides science-based articles just to show what are the different types of drug policies and what should we be focusing on. And I would just explain that legalizing marijuana is a drug promotional policy. And with this drug epidemic crisis that we are living in, that's the last thing we should be focusing on, prevention and recovery policies only. And in another article we have, it shows that the industry makes products to target kids, like candies and chips, Cheetos that they call Weetos now, and they spray THC on them, or they infuse THC with them, and kids really get confused about what are these products. They think it's just candy. They think it's just normal food. So they're very attracted to it. And children are being hospitalized all the time, exposed to these products. And just like I didn't know what a dab was when my son told me that's what he was using, we all need to be familiar with the products that this industry is producing, because now marijuana is highly processed with chemicals, and I call it industrialized THC. It's really not even marijuana anymore. It's an industrialized drug targeted to addict people. So a few people can make money while society pays the price. So in Colorado, they put THC in flavored packets to flavor your water. They have THC in salsa water. They have powder that looks like creamer or sugar. They have THC pills, toothpicks, inhalers, cookies, vapes that look like thumb drives, chocolate bars with birthday cake flavoring, vapes that look like crayons, and they have a product called THCA, which is the crack of marijuana. It's 99.9% concentration of THC. And then they also have the other concentrated products like wax, shatter, crumble, that are very, very high in THC. They also have these products called distillate pearls, or round beads, that are like dabs, and all the hemp products that are targeted at the children. And in the United States, youth use has increased drastically since we have changed these policies. Young adults, 18 to 25, daily use used to be at 6%, and now it's at 11, and the 6% in 2011. Now it's at 11% in 2021. Now, those young adults that are using, and these are very conservative numbers, have a 5-fold increase to develop schizophrenia. So that's a lot of youth at risk. Path month use in 2011 went from 17%, and now it's at 29%. Past year use, which is a very often, they're not using daily, but they're using very often. And then past year use went from 29% in 2011 to 43% in 2021. And now, of course, vaping marijuana in teens has drastically increased by 2.5 times, and occasionally use has increased by 291%. And these figures are for monitoring the future in 2022. And the Clinical Toxicology Journal published an article, a study on December 5th, 2022, where adolescent cannabis abuse has increased by 245% since the year 2000. And to me, families need to understand these marijuana vapes are purposely designed to deliver a smooth, flavorful, turbo-fast chemical assault to children's brains. If it wasn't for the flavors, children and adults would spit these products out because they taste like chemicals and weed. So the flavoring allows them to mask the toxicity of these products. As a result, too, of the expansion of marijuana, we have increased road deaths. The International Narcotic Control Study of 2022 national report was released in Colorado, and it shows that fatal traffic accidents with drivers under the influence of cannabis nearly doubled from 2013 to 2020. Even if you're not using the product, it can affect you. It can harm you. It can kill you. And I always like to tell the story. I don't like to tell the story, but I want to share the story of baby Jesse James. Jesse James and his mom, Tamron, are from Texas. And her husband was addicted to marijuana, and his dream was to go to Colorado and work in the marijuana industry and smoke marijuana. She did not want to be part of that. She was tired of his marijuana use, and she realized that her husband loved marijuana more than he loved her and their son. So they divorced, and she was ordered to send her son to Colorado to visit him, her ex-husband. And she did a child welfare check before she sent him. Well, her ex-husband lied to the law officers, and he took him to a home that was not his home. So it was a nice home that didn't have any drugs in it, and they said that it was okay for her to send her child to visit his father. But one morning, there's baby Jesse James' father had walked a baby Jesse and his two dogs to his truck and put his two dogs in the truck, and remembered he forgot the diaper bag. So he went back up to the house, brought the diaper bag to the car, and then backed out of the driveway. He forgot to put his son in the car, and he ran over his son. But he did not realize he ran over his son till 11 minutes later. And he came back to the house, and instead of calling 911, he picked up his son and he drove his son to the local fire station. And the reason why he did not want to call 911 to his home is because he had a large illegal marijuana grow operation in his home. So when people are saying to you that using marijuana is about freedom, I just ask you to remember baby Jesse James and ask, where's Jesse's freedom? And in Colorado, we have a 52% increase in violent crimes over this past 10 years. And the Every Brain Matters has an article that is science-based showing marijuana's link to these violent crimes. It is a factor. And the article is called Marijuana Violence is Closer Than You Think. It's a vicious high, the link between marijuana and violence, and you can find it on the front page of everybrainmatters.org. And also, since Colorado has legalized, unfortunately, the black market has taken advantage of this and has increased a lot. Cannabis is the most drugs seized by far in the state of Colorado, and also fentanyl is now increasing. So in this display, you can see the figures. And the 2020 Drug Enforcement Administration report released their statement, and so the DEA Outlook, here's their statement, word by word. Domestic use of marijuana remains high and is likely to increase as states' legalization continues, and the perception of risk by potential users continues to decrease. The high availability of high-potency marijuana and marijuana concentrated products and trendy paraphernalia will likely continue to entice potential users. Despite widespread state legalization measures, the black market will continue to expand their illicit market production and trafficking, earning substantial products that will further enhance their poly-drug trafficking and poly-criminal organizations. Marijuana produced in Mexico will continue to be trafficked into the United States in bulk quantities and may increase in quality to compete with domestic produced marijuana. And as we mentioned before, marijuana, if marijuana was going to help people addicted to opioids, our overdose rates would be decreasing, but they are still climbing. Colorado just released a report to their General Assembly, so the elected officials of Colorado, our legislators, through the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and they're required to produce this report every year on the trends of marijuana use among Colorados. And their statement in this is daily or near daily marijuana use by adolescents and young adults is strongly associated with developing psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia in adulthood. These symptoms are worse with higher doses of THC, and marijuana use by adolescents and young adults is strongly associated with these psychotic symptoms such as the hallucinations, paranoia, and delusional beliefs. And weekly or more frequent marijuana use by adolescents is strongly associated with the failure to graduate from high school. So as a result, Republicans and Democrats came together to get a policy passed to try to lessen these harms. And it was a bill called HB 21-1317, and they labeled it regulating marijuana concentrates because of this critical public health challenge due to marijuana legalization. And Dr. Chris Rogers, who's a prominent physician, psychiatrist in Colorado, stated, inpatient psychiatrists have a front row seat to this emerging epidemic of cannabis abuse and addiction that threatens to swallow the lives of a whole generation of Coloradans. On our adult inpatient unit, it's hard to keep count of the number of psychotic and suicidal patients that are admitted with THC on board. And the story on our adolescent unit is even more tragic, as we repeatedly treat kids that are too psychotic to know what's real, who they can trust, or where they are. The rates of adolescent psychosis have risen steadily since legalization. So we have a video on the front page of our website too that actually explains how much access an 18-year-old with a medical marijuana card can get with THC.
Aubrey?
Yes.
Can you round up now so that those that want to interrogate and ask you questions can still have the time to do that? Thank you.
Absolutely. I was just wrapping up, so good timing. And like I mentioned before, we have campaigns on the front page of our website on how to respond to this epidemic, and we I just want to close with a quote from Dr. Bertha Madras. She says, "This is not about a war on drugs. It's about a defense of our brains, the repository of our humanity." So I invite you all to go to the Every Brain Matters website, everybrainmatters.org, hit the join button at the top so we can spread valuable information and be part of positive change. Thank you so much for allowing me to present.
Thank you very much, Aubrey, for that graphic presentation and very touching indeed. This we're talking of a first-hand experience, narration, and a very emotional one for that matter. Thank you once again for taking time to share with us your personal, family, and community experience about public health and the marijuana drug culture. We indeed appreciate you. And thank you also for all of those that have been patient to listen to this presentation. We would be taking a few comments regarding reactions to the presentation by Aubrey now. Questions, please. We're dealing with the topic of discussion at this moment. Would not entertain any other question apart from this until we get to the last 30 minutes when we switch to another issue that is at 4:30 precisely. So the next 15 minutes we have will give the opportunity to some of those that have already given them, have already approved one after the other. I'll call you. I invite you. Please go ahead. Let's have your thoughts on the presentation by Aubrey. I'll start with TJ. TJ, can you go ahead and let's hear from you what you have to say to the presentation by Aubrey. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your beautiful presentation. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to find out if cannabis can have any reprehensible effects on a depressed person.
Yes, I mean, initially, that's a good question because there's a lot of confusion around that. And initially, when somebody consumes THC, it's an intoxicant, so it can numb them up, just like all the other drugs that are intoxicants, and the user can feel better. But in time, the THC robs the reward system of the brain, rendering it powerless. So the user the brain will require more and more of the THC and not be able to regulate the depression on its own. So THC long-term effects of depression are damaging.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, TJ. Let's take the next question or reaction from that is Apesha Nnamdi Emmanuel. Apesha, please go ahead quickly. Apesha, are you there? I'll go to the next person. Okay, let's go.
I'm here, sir.
Okay, please go ahead. Go ahead quickly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, so much for the presentation. Please, my question is, what strategies can public health officials use to raise awareness about the risks of marijuana use and promote healthy behaviors?
Oh,
did you get my question?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I would say public health educational campaigns with factual information to empower everyone to make informed decisions, and not allow an industry that's driven by profits to come into the community to target vulnerable populations like our youth. That's a very good question. Education is the best thing. Honest, clear conversation is practically the only thing we can do, and keeping those lines of communication, especially with the youth or people that might be struggling, so they feel like they can approach other people if they are having a problem, if they have decided to experiment or use. We want them to be able to come ask for help if they need help.
Okay, ma. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aubrey, for that. Let's go close to where Aubrey is. I can see Kevin Savant. Kevin, you have something to say to what Aubrey had just presented. Quickly, please.
Yes, no, I'm honored to be on this. I just caught this. First of all, I want to say we're a big fan of Aubrey and the work she's doing with Every Brain Matters to raise awareness We work together with our organization, SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana. I started this after I left the Obama administration in 2011. I just will say, do not follow this path that we are of mass commercialization. And we need to tell young people that their brains are being marketed. Their brains are dollar signs for a massive corporate industry whose business it is to get people addicted. And that has to start at a young age, because nobody gets addicted to drugs if they start later on as an adult. You get addicted when you start as an adolescent. That's why young people and talking to young people is so key. So, this is the United Nations is a very important also entity that we work with on the global drug problem. But I would just warn Africa, because there is a lot of influence. There's a lot of influence, especially West Africa Drug Policy Commission and other pro-legalization. They're very pro, that are coming to Africa. They're bringing money. They're bringing speakers from all over the world, and they're coming to influence you to try and legalize drugs. And it starts with cannabis, but they actually want to legalize all drugs. And I would warn everybody here to look out for these. Sometimes people there are well-intentioned. They think it's about, ending the drug war, but it's really about legalizing and commercializing and increasing drug use. So I just want to cheer everybody on here. We need to have more discussions like this. Aubrey's Every Brain Matters is a wonderful resource, especially for parents. If people are interested in a lot of the policy side, that's kind of what we do at SAM. They can go to learnaboutsam.org, and we'd be very happy to help in any way. But I just wanted to reiterate that we need to have more spaces like this, and to please really understand the true intentions of those that want to legalize drugs.
Thank you, Kevin. Every Brain Matters would not exist if it wasn't for Kevin and Smart Approach to Marijuana. And I mentioned his project earlier in the presentation, the Parent Action Network, that we work very closely and partner with them. And thank you, Kevin. And I would just support what Kevin just said. The best drug prevention Africa, Nigeria can do is to not legalize marijuana. You will save lives. You will prevent devastating consequences, because as soon as these drug promotional policies come in, that's when the changes happen rapidly. And I appreciate you all allowing me to share my experience of what happened to my community in Puebla, Colorado.
Thank you very much again, Aubrey and Kevin there. Let's take the next reaction or question from Abdul Laziz Biodun. Quickly, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Femi, and thank you, Humphrey, for that warm, heart-touching, practical presentation. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. I was just thinking, if we could have a space like this with our policymakers, because they are the one that will make the policies. So if they are aware of such implications to the country, to individual finances, I think they may not be tempted at any period in time to pass such bill. So I would encourage this kind of conversations to go on, and then engage you or other people, just as Kevin also said, to our policymakers. I think that will go a long way. Thank you very much for sharing. I almost have nothing to say because of your how touching your story is. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm happy, and a group of us parents are happy, or anybody, to come talk to legislators, policymakers. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much for that, Abdulaziz Biodun, and for that from Aubrey. Okay, let's quickly take some the questions from our DM. Moni is asking, what are some social factors that influence the use of this from Tina. Aubrey, I hope you can note that I want to ask the two questions together. One, what are some social factors that influence the use of marijuana? And another from Tina is asking, does marijuana possess any therapeutic value at all? Maybe Aubrey and even Kevin is still around. You can also say something to this. Please go ahead.
Yeah, there are some therapeutic factors with marijuana, and we have FDA-approved medications here in the U.S., like Marinol and Epidiolex, that provide that regulated product for people that require that can access that through medical professionals that are educated on how to dispense that, besides bed tenders who are not necessarily educated and understand the full impacts of what the products that they're pushing as medicine. Also, social factors. There's lots of them. Marijuana influences the whole United States. There's lots of advertisements. There's the children are exposed to smell. I know in New York, there's reports that the whole city is smelling as marijuana, and families are very upset there. And these types of social factors of smelling it, seeing it, being propagated that it's medicine, it's less harmful than other drugs, that does influence vulnerable populations that are undereducated, like our youth, and places of disadvantaged communities that have a lack of education. So the impacts from that are increased addiction, increased mental illness, increased homelessness, increased crime and violence, broken families. My personal experience is I've been with my husband since I was a teenager. I met him when I was 15 and he was 17. We married in our 20s. And never, ever did I think marijuana would change him so much. We live in different states, but that affects our children deeply. To have their mom and dad separated, we are still legally married. But that's when I'm just one family of thousands, if not millions. It is very important that children have healthy parents and healthy examples and places to go where they are not exposed to marijuana. We have really provided toxic environments for them that will influence their physical and mental health. And I don't know if Kevin is still on, if he wants to add to that, but yeah, that's a very good question. It's a very large issue, and we could talk about this for hours and hours, but it does influence almost every aspect of our society.
All right, thank you, Aubrey. Okay, let me take this one from before I come back to those asking for the mic. From our DM again, I have Bamila from research. He's writing from research, cannabinoid, which is a chemical found in cannabis sativa, is useful in treating glaucoma. Does this have an effect on the body system in the long run? Okay.
I'm not a medical professional, so I wouldn't comment on something like that. But what I would say, any benefits from the cannabis plant need to be from medical professionals through an FDA process or whatever process Africa has, and not from people that are interested in profits.
All right, let me also quickly take this from our DM. Are there new trends or advancements in marijuana research and public health that we ought to be aware of that can help the public? Okay, then let's take this last one. What are the health implications / risk associated with the use of marijuana? Is medical marijuana safer than the one sold on the street? Okay, I'm sure that will be all we can take on our this thing. Then I'll come back to those with the mic. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm not sure if I understand the question, but what will happen is that to get the support of legalizing marijuana, what this industry, these lobbyists will do is they will call it medicine over and over and over again. And there is some truth. There are in low concentrations some medicinal properties. But that's not a reason to legalize and allow a predatory addiction for profit to come in and prey on your people. You know, when in Colorado, their medical marijuana program has candies and vapes with large concentrations of THC. An 18-year-old can purchase 32,000 milligrams of THC daily. Now that's not medicine. That's an avenue to addict more people and provide more pathways for the profiteers. You know, it's not so they really do pull at the heartstrings. But as you can see, my son thought marijuana was medicine. He thought he would argue with me, Mom, it's medicine. You're the only one not smoking it. And I'm like, well, son, it's causing some really strange behaviors in you, and you're trying to harm yourself. So that's not what medicine does. Medicine is supposed to help, not destroy lives. So be very, very careful. I'm not familiar with the medical system in Nigeria, but I would say that this industry is not going to treat this policy and these products as medicine. They're going to treat it as an addiction for profit industry where they can make money. So they will say and do what they need to do to manipulate the populace so they can profit.
All right, thank you for your thoughts there, Aubrey. Let's obviously take the last one from Janet. Janet Obute. Janet Obute, can you unmute yourself? Let's hear from you. Janet Obute, if you are not ready, then because we're ready at the time, that's exactly 4:30 at this point. If Janet is not ready, I would like to thank Aubrey again, and I would like to have your... Jane, are you coming on?
Yes, I'm ready. Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
My question is, this marijuana, I really appreciate the lesson and the time taken. My question goes like this: does it affect the womb? That is, maybe if a woman wants to take in and she's into the marijuana stuff, does it affect her from giving birth, or she will still give birth?
Oh, yes. I mean, there's no safe amount of marijuana for pregnant women to use. There's lots of education. The industry, unfortunately, targets pregnant women and tells them to treat their nausea, but it's harming the baby. And so no amount of marijuana is safe for pregnancy.
Thank you very much, Aubrey. There. Okay, at this point, I'd like to have your last thoughts on the program today, Aubrey, so that the next few minutes left, we can switch to attend to some other people on the space, those who wants to get some updates from us on some of our processes going on here. Thank you, Aubrey. So let's have your last take on your presentation today, and we can then excuse you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I just want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to be here and have a voice. It means the world to me. And I do this. It's hard for me to talk about my story, but I do this because I care, and I don't want other countries making the same mistakes that the United States has made. I loved my home of Colorado. I love my family, and I don't want what happened to it's too late for my family is what I'm saying. And I would like to prevent this from happening to other families. I am contacted all the time from families that are realizing that their child's marijuana use is now leading to psychotic symptoms. Every time I see another horrific story on TV where people are being shot and harmed, it just destroys my heart. Marijuana is not safe. This is not marijuana anymore. This is a highly concentrated, potent drug that is targeted at our children and vulnerable populations for a few people to profit while we all pay a price. The public health and safety is more important than the predatory addiction for marijuana industry. And I urge you all to not pass policies or participate in campaigns that normalize marijuana, because they will keep coming back over and over and over again until they get what they want. So link arms together, take a stand, draw a line, and protect your people. So thank you for allowing me to be here. And join us at everybrainmatters.org.
Thank you very much once again, Aubrey Adams. Aubrey is the director of Every Brain Matters. She not only has a BS in exercise science and health promotion, but it's a proud mom of her experience as a mom of 2 sons and 2 dogs, and as a host for Youth in Recovery. Aubrey really has a very touching story of her experience, her personal experience, her family experience with the marijuana expansion movement, and what that could do, what the impact on her life, on her children, on her family, as well as her community in Pueblo, Colorado. Awesome presentation. We are really glad you found time to be with us. Definitely we would be in touch with you at all times to continue to have this kind of sharing of your knowledge, of your experience with us. Once again, we appreciate your time with us. We're most sincerely grateful, and we want to wish you and your family all the best, and do have a lovely weekend. Thank you once again, Aubrey. We're glad you were able to spend some time with us. Now, we'd like to move on to the last segment of the program, and that has to do with updating those applicants. Now, we all know that we've been quite a number of us. Just yesterday, I think precisely yesterday, we did issue a statement where we also published a long list of candidates, especially at the level at the superintendent cadre, those who passed the recent assessment test. And I want to say this before I go for that indeed we had more than 2 million persons, because I have followed some of you, some of your comments and conversations on some other platforms. We had more than 2 million persons apply for this job. We cannot take even 10% of that. That you should know, because the agency has an approval for a certain number of people to take. We cannot exceed that. And so in a situation where you have more than 2 million persons apply for a job, let's say we're looking for, we have an approval to take like 3,000 or 5,000. What's percentage of 2 million? Let's even say 2 million. What percentage of 2 million is that? So automatically we know that the majority would not definitely be able to make it due to quite stringent criteria. And as all of you must have noticed, that in this case, indeed, we have been very, very open, and that I can tell you that at the level of the agency, we've tried everything possible to be open, to be transparent from the word go, from the beginning. We've engaged everybody here. So, and for those who have some reservations, it is understandable, because in a population, I mean, in an exam where more than 2 million persons attempted, and you are probably able to shortlist, come up with a list of 6,000 or less, then you have quite a lot of people disgruntled or not happy. It's natural. That is it. But then please know that indeed in any competition in life, some will win, and that does not make you a failure. You can still be part of this agency in another few months or thereabout, or even another bigger job or engagement. So please let's be very cautious in some of the things we say or we do, just simply because you did not make it. That's not really sportsmanship. That's not the spirit of sportsmanship. Please note that we continue to try the best we can to be transparent and to treat everybody fairly and equally. Now, let me quickly run through some of the things that for those who will be attending interviews beginning from Monday, that is 5th, to the 16th of June, that is this next Monday. For those who will be attending these interviews, screening, please note that you have, this is another thing, because a lot of us made a lot of blunders, made a lot of mistakes in the course of even applying for this job, and all of that you want to shift or you want to blame that on the agency, when in the real sense, in fact, when some of you again were invited for the assessment test, quite a lot of people also had the same issue. So I'm trying to say this so that we all know, even somebody, I mean, one of my colleagues is sharing with me now that even if looking at, because I talked about the issue of percentage, and he's telling me now that even 5,000 is only 0.25% of what is this? Is it 400,000 that he put there? So what I'm just trying to say is the fact that indeed we have quite a lot of people who applied for this, and we're glad that quite a number of us Nigerians are interested in joining our premier anti-narcotic agency in the country, meaning that those who are here are doing a lot of work to make the organization attractive to you to want to join. So we're glad, but then let's also know that it's not everybody that applied that can be part of it. So let's be very mindful of the things we say, like I was saying before. Now, coming to, like I said again, please, when you are going for your screening and interviews next week, please follow instructions. We have put out a statement out there. It's available on our website. Please follow the instructions there so that you don't, because the fact that you are at this point does not mean you are through ultimately. Even somebody else who, because at the end of the day, you never can tell. Even some people, because don't forget, one of the major things of the next stage is the drug integrity test. For anybody that fails the drug integrity test, know that it's a no-no at this point. And what that means is you still have a pool of thousands of others who can still be invited to be able to fill those vacancies that are likely to be created. So let's be very careful to follow instructions and to do the right thing. Yeah, that my colleague is saying 5,000 is 0.25% of 2 million. Thank you for that. Now, we would be having, we did put out in our statement, and in Abuja here at the national headquarters, that's at 6 Port Harcourt Crescent off Jimbia Street, Abuja. We'll be having a center here. All of this, I mean, you have been badged, you have been grouped, and you know the days you have been invited. Don't go on a day you are not scheduled to go. Otherwise, you risk being disqualified. And again, don't go and loiter around to want to know what your colleagues who are scheduled for a particular day, what they are doing, or those kind of things. You stand the risk of being disqualified. Now, again, another center is in Kano. That is our command. The NDLA command in Kano is located at Airport Road in Kano. For those in the northwest and those that have been grouped to go there from Monday, and I think theirs will be running for 2 weeks because of the number of people that will be going to those centers. Again, you also have in Lagos, that is at our headquarters, annex, that's at Foreshore Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. That will run from 5th to that 5th, that's next Monday, to the other Monday, that's to 15th. That's for those in Lagos. That's where those around the southwest states will be attending their own screening and interview. You have also been appropriately grouped. Please don't fail to go on the date you have been scheduled to go. We also have another center in Jos. That's at our academy, at NDLA Academy, Cartoon Risco in Jos. Please, those that have been grouped from North Central and I think Northeast states, please follow the instructions, check your name, check the batch you belong to, and please go there. Then in Port Harcourt, also our command, the NDLA State Command at Artillery Junction, Aba Road, Port Harcourt. For those in the south, I think southeast also, that have been grouped to attend their own screening and interview there, please go there. And again, what are those things you are supposed to go with? This is very important. Again, you have been asked, according to our statement that we released yesterday, that original and photocopy of your credentials. Don't just go with your original copy alone, because you would, the panel, members of the panel will take the photocopy from you while they examine the original. So you'll be going back with the original. So make sure that you have original and photocopy of your credentials in a file, including all your relevant certificates, be they statement of results, birth, so declaration of age certificate, NYSC discharge or exception certificates, certificate of state of origin, and other professional certificates where necessary. Please, you are supposed to bring original and photocopies of all of these. Don't fail to bring all of these necessary documents. Please note that in addition to this, you are also asked to come with 2 recent color passport photographs. The passport photographs it's not the type you have your face cap or your hat on as a woman.
recruitment, you guys have been transparent. You guys have told us every step that what we have to do, what strategy that we have to. You were
From Janet. Janet, are you a candidate? If you are, let me hear from you.
Yes, I'm a candidate.
Were you shortlisted?
No, I'm not shortlisted.
All
Yes,
the
sir.
women, I know definitely that there will quite be a lot of women because I've seen quite a lot of women. But then, Janet, let's keep, I can assure you, we'll continue to do the best we can. We won't be here to guide everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, that's the most we can take today. Please, again, I emphasize for those that have been shortlisted, for those who are scheduled to appear, please go on our website, read the instructions properly. Read, I emphasize again, the instructions properly so that we don't miss anything and you don't come back and start blaming somebody else or an imaginary enemy or something you don't start insinuating what is not true. We will continue to take you and carry you along as we go on this process. I'd like to say it's my pleasure to host you again on this conversation today. We'll continue to make sure that we do everything transparently as possible by the grace of God. I'd like to thank all my colleagues that at the other end of the console. I'm talking of Mahmoud, Shidi, Francis, Charity, Kumbi, Bamidele, and Philemon. There is also Lex there. Thank you guys for always being there to back me up, to support me. I appreciate your time. And this is all we can take on today's edition of our open forum on Twitter. Next week, by the grace of God, we will be coming again. I'd like to assure that by the grace of God, this process, that for those that are already going through the process, is going to be a very fast one, so that because we are following our timelines, and let's do the best we can. And in addition to this, and most importantly, please let all of us stay far away from, you heard the story of Aubrey Adams, what cannabis, that's what quite a lot of us, our young people here, like to glorify. You can hear what he did to her son, to her husband, to her family, and the impact on her community. Please, let's share this. This is a recorded conversation. You can go back on the platform and share with others so that they can benefit from the experience of that awesome woman. She's done excellently well today, sharing her experience with us. Until we come your way next week, I remain sincerely yours, Femi Babafem. Thank you and have a good weekend. I hand over to my colleagues over there to close the show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
And as you rightly said, this brings us to the end of the program. Our listeners can always listen to this program whenever they wish to, since it is recorded. And they can visit our website www.ndla.gov.ng and our social media platforms at ndla_Nigeria and at ndla01 for more information about the agency. You have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.